So now video number 2 about how I got this Chanel Jumbo caviar leather. Why can't I say that word? For brand new handbag for a cheaper price. So I opened up a Saks card, but before I opened up the Saks card, I had to find the right jumbo. So she showed me one, and the one that she showed me was beautiful, but then I noticed that if you open up the flap, first flap, right, the second flap right here had this white smudge. It was like a white, like a candle, you know, melted candle sort of look. That's what it had. And it was just, you know, it was about that big. It was really tiny, size of, I don't know, less than half of my thumbnail, maybe. And I noticed it, and I said to her, oh, I'm not taking this, right? So she said, okay. She said, oh, I can try to get that out later, but let me give you a new one. So she goes to the back, and she brings out another one. So that one, immediately, as soon as she puts it in front of me, I'm looking at it, it looks beautiful, except right here, it's as if one of the caviar, just one little bump, had lifted or something. There was a little line that you could see it from certain light. So I showed it to her, and she said, oh no, there's nothing wrong there. So then I showed it to my sister, and because, you know, I'm like, am I going crazy here? I see it. And of course, once you notice what it is, then your eye keeps going to that little mark. So my sister says, she looks at it and she goes, yeah, I can see it. I see what you're saying. And the sales associate says, okay, I don't know if we have anything in the back. I'll go check. She goes and checks and says, she brings out another one. By the way, the one with a little mark had, you know, the little blue tapes on it and all that stuff. So it looked, and it was every one of these handbags that they're bringing out, it's all wrapped. Like they have the wrap around the chains, and there's white wrapping, tissue wrapping around the entire handbag. Okay, so the third one comes out, and I'm looking at it, it looks beautiful. Now that one didn't have any blue tape on it, so it could have been somebody could have, you know, looked at it or whatever. So, and by the way, just sort of going back to when I was deciding between medium large versus jumbo, all the jumbos that I saw were made in Italy, and it's this caviar, but it's sort of flatter and more shiny, sort of, I can't really tell, softer caviar. The medium larges that they had that I saw was made in France, and it was much more rough caviar. And it felt more plasticky to me, and those were made in France. And they said, my essay said that, you know, there's different feel to caviar depending on the batch. So that's something that I didn't realize. I thought all the caviar would be the same, but apparently they're not. And it looked very different to me. Anyway, going back, so now we've had one with a little white mark inside the flap, and then the second one with a little line, tiny little line here, but I keep seeing it. So that one went back, and then she brought out a third one, and that one had no, you know, the blue tape on the hardware, and it looked beautiful. So I'm thinking, okay, let's start the application process for the credit card. So she's filling out my name, and as I'm like admiring it, wearing it, my sister says, wait a minute, what is this? And she points to this area right here where the leather stitching right here there were like loose threads, and there was like a, you know, when a thread gets a little loop in it, and so that's what it was. And so my sister talked to my essay and said, wait a minute, this is here. Is there any way you can just cut that off? She goes, no, you can't cut it off. So she goes, I don't know if we have any other. You know, and I'm thinking, in my head, I'm like thinking, okay, this is God telling me I don't need a Chanel, right? And I'm almost a little bit relieved. And a little disappointed, but a little bit relieved. I have to say, I was about 70% relieved that I wasn't spending all this money. So I don't know. So I go, well, if you don't have it, then I don't have to get it. And she goes, let me check. And she comes back, and this time in a box, and it was wrapped up. Again, the handles were wrapped in tissue. The whole thing was wrapped up in a box, and it had blue tapes on all the hardware here and everything. And I inspected it, and it looked perfect. This is a 1. And I'm telling you, I was like, I've seen so many YouTube videos, and especially LV Lover CC, where she had so many trouble, so much. I remember when she first got her Chanel Jumbo that she had some difficulty in getting items that were not, like, I hate to say the word defective, but yeah, kinda, right? So, and I said, what would you do with it? I mean, do they get sent back? She goes, no, some of it might have to, I don't know which one she was talking about, but some of it, it's like what I would consider a defect, or like what I wouldn't like, other people wouldn't notice. So I thought, oh, okay. But I was so glad that she was able to find for me a Chanel Jumbo that has, I think I was the only person that touched it. The tissue paper looked immaculate. It was from a brand new box, and it was, it had the blue tapes on. So I was thrilled. So she's filling out the paperwork, and with tax and everything, I want to say it came out to $5,380 something. I don't remember exactly, but it was over 5,000. And when I did the application, the limit that they give you is 5,000. They gave me was 5,000. So apparently I went over the limit, but it still registered, right? It still went through. That being said, I had 10% off on everything that I purchased that day. And not only that, if I had to go over, I was told by my essay that if I go over $5,000 on that day, that everything that I would get 600 additional 600 Saks dollars as reward, not like $390, but like 600. So it was actually, and all I needed to spend was $50 more because my item was $4,950 with 10% off, you see? So to hit that 5,000, all I needed was $50 more purchase on that day, and I would be getting $600 later. I thought, oh my God, that is a savings of $1,150. Did I do that math right? Yeah. I thought, oh my gosh, you can't even get a used one for that, and this is brand new. So we got it, and she said, I don't know how this happened, but it went through. It said your credit limit was 5,000, but this 5,300, over 5,300 went through, because it was over 5,300 because of taxes. Okay, so it went through. So I said, what do I do about the rest of the items that I want to purchase today so that I can hit that extra $50 or get more more items for 10% off, because it's only for the day that you open up your credit card. And she said, okay, if you come back, if you have cash and pay off some of this amount, and so that pay off some of the amount, then it could be credited back so that I can continue to spend my limit up to 5,000. Does that make sense? So I said, no problem. I'll go home. I'll drive home now. I'll bring a check. And she said either cash or check. So I'll bring home bring back my check, and I'll just write a check, and I'll pay for the whole thing, right? Because usually I use credit card. When I use credit card, I pay it all off. I don't do, monthly payments. I'm not going to pay 23% interest. If I can't afford it, I don't buy it. So I said, all right, And because you don't want to be in debt for, I don't want to be in debt for like a luxury item that I don't really need. Come on. This is not necessity of life, right? So, this is what I always tell my kids. I always tell, on the side note, I always say my kids are 24 and 21. I always tell my kids, okay, when you're in college, we'll pay for the necessity of life. If you want to go see a movie, that's on you. So I felt like this is not necessity of life, right? So, where was I going with this? I even forgot what I was saying. I don't know. I'm so sorry. So I'm so excited. So I went home. Of course, when I went home and I went to look for my car, I forgot where I parked my car. So you can see this lady, you know, walking all over the underground parking of near Saks Fifth Avenue trying to find my car. Oh my gosh, I was panicking towards the end because it was like 20 minutes. I couldn't find my car because I was so excited about this whole process. And I was on the phone talking to somebody right before I got to Saks. I didn't pay attention to where I parked. And there were a lot of people there. So, anyway, I finally found it. And you know how I found it? I was like walking around everywhere, clicking my remote to see if I can hear the beep, 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 beep. And you could, oh my gosh. And it's embarrassing, but there you have it. So I went home, I drove home, I told my husband as I was driving home what I was doing. And he says, okay, if they have 10% off, maybe you can go to Louis Vuitton and get whatever you want for 10% off. And I said, okay, are you sure? He said, yes, go ahead. And he knows how much I like Pochette Accessoires. He said, maybe you can get another color of that. And I said, I don't need another one. One's enough for me. I'll buy something else though. But I'm digressing. So I go home, I get my checkbook, I go back to Saks Fifth Avenue. My SA was out to lunch. That poor lady, she went out to lunch like at, oh my God, by now it's 5 o'clock. I was at Chanel store at Saks for like an hour and a half. So another lady knew that I was coming with the check. And she said, how much would you like to pay up? So pay off, so that you can get the credit. So I decided to pay the entire amount and we finished there. And then I have a dinner function dinner function that night to go to. And I wanted to wear my new Chanel purse. So I have like an hour maybe plus to find something else that's $50 to go over the $5,000 so that I can get $600 Saks money later. So let me tell you in part 3 what happened.